Languages are a huge asset. They allow you to communicate with people from different cultures, they open your eyes to a new way of thinking, and since acquiring a new language takes a lot of mental strength, it is really one of the best ways to train your mind. Depending on where you grew up, you may really not have a choice in to learn another language. In Germany, you start learning English from an early age, and once you get to 6th grade, you're about 11 years old, you will start learning your second foreign language, traditionally getting the choice between French or Latin. 2 years later, at least in my school, you could decide between natural science branch or a linguistic branch of studies. In the linguistic one, you would then start to learn your third foreign language, Spanish, at the age of 13. And while that is great, I think it is really important to start learning languages from a young age. It is by far not the same as being bilingual. In Switzerland, for example, however, you barely have a choice to be bilingual. As a tiny landlocked country, being about 238 times smaller than the US, stuck between Austria, Italy, France, Germany, and Liechtenstein, it has adopted many national languages, 4 in total: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. Of course, if you grew up in the US, speaking a second language is way less likely, simply because it is not as necessary for you. You have a giant market in the US itself, plus adding all the other English-speaking countries. And with increasing globalization, all these foreigners, me included, learn your language anyways. Only about 20% of Americans can converse in 2 or more languages, compared with 56% of Europeans. Experts also estimate about half of humanity is at least bilingual. But it's hard work, believe me, I have gone through the process of learning a language many times. And while it does get easier, it takes a lot of time and determination. So why learn another language, apart from being able to show off? Well, economically speaking, it opens a lot of doors for you, and is a very valuable asset because it means that you can, for example, create a link between 2 branches of a company that otherwise may struggle to communicate. Have I convinced you that maybe it's time to learn a new language? Great. Then let's have a look at which language is economically the most beneficial to learn. Welcome to Rebel Economics. Today, we will be talking about which language will bring you the greatest benefit in the business world and why. I'm really excited about this topic, so I hope you are too. And if you're so inclined, I would really appreciate if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really motivates us to hear your opinion and is great feedback to produce more content that you enjoy. So, here we go. Assuming you only speak English so far, which language should you learn? I want to start off with talking about Mandarin as a potential language. Mainly because in my research for this video, it kept popping up as the best language to learn. And quite frankly, I disagree. So, let's look at the common arguments. China is a huge marketplace, and it is still continuously growing. So with that logic, it means that there will be many jobs where speaking Mandarin would be an asset or even essential. Plus, it could link other huge economies, like that of the US, to the Chinese one, making it easier to facilitate business relations between the 2 countries. Also, because while many Europeans, for example, speak English really well, that is not the case in China. So being able to speak both languages, English and Chinese, would be a huge asset for both sides. So with this in mind, why do I disagree with the common opinion? Why do I not think that Mandarin is the go-to language for you to learn for business purposes? Well, my answer is twofold. For one, it is about the possibility of learning the language to an extent where you can actually comfortably use it in business scenarios. Mandarin is notoriously difficult to learn on many levels. For one, the pronunciation is very complex. There are sounds that are virtually the same to the uneducated ear, but the inclination of the voice can change the entire meaning of the word. So, for example, if you want to say the number 4, you may accidentally say death. Saying 94, for example, could be interpreted as being dead for a long time. That could get really awkward in business situations, and it's very difficult for foreigners to get it right. And then, of course, you have the alphabet with the characters. Learning these intricate symbols will take a long time to learn, no matter how hard you're working at it. It is estimated that if you learn Mandarin from English, it would take you about 2,200 hours to reach the B1 level, which is the 3rd level out of 6. So let's say you manage to study about 10 hours of Mandarin per week, 1 hour each day after work, and 2 to 3 hours per Saturday and Sunday. I think that's a realistic amount to assume, especially considering that you have to do this long term and next to your job. Well, that would mean 220 weeks of studying, which is nearly 4 years and 3 months. And that still doesn't mean that you're a pro at the language. This is just to reach a level where you can converse with natives. But this is only part of the reason. The second reason is that doing business with China is really difficult for Western companies. With the state and all economic decisions being made by the Chinese Communist Party, it does not offer the same freedom the markets of the Western capitalist countries do. For Western companies, operating under such restrictions and under the constant surveillance by the Chinese government is a huge hurdle. A study found that 31% of overseas firms often struggle with laws and regulations in China, naming the local bureaucracy as their number one concern when expanding into the country. Furthermore, the market environment is completely detached from most other economies in the world, making it difficult to take the first steps. It is estimated that 37% of products that pass for the US market fail in the Chinese market. Consumer preferences there are widely different, meaning that either companies have to adjust to the market or will be likely to fail with their products. Also, its economic growth has already slowed down considerably, with it being hyped in the early 2000s, reaching its best growth rate in 2007 with 14.2% of year-on-year GDP increase. It has since steadily gone down, only spiking in 2021 in relation to the abysmal year of 2020. If this is something that interests you, you're gonna love the fact that we're working on a video called Why the US Will Remain an Economic Superpower. So definitely subscribe and then check it out as soon as it's released. So I hope that is enough of justification why, in contrast to so many other people, I do not believe that Mandarin is the optimal language to learn. So let's look at some other languages instead, specifically Spanish and German. I believe that these may be two of the most important languages to know besides English in the business environment. Spanish has the third largest number of native speakers after English and Mandarin. Therefore, it adds a whole lot of people who you will be able to converse with, plus the additional 74 million people who speak it as a second language. It is the second most spoken language in the US, so it offers you many opportunities in a corporate environment in which you may already feel quite comfortable. So in that regard, it will perhaps not be as unique of a skill as other languages, especially if we look at the US, but it is required in so many fields, from healthcare to banking to retail, that it is well worth it. Also, Spanish is spoken in so many countries. So if you seek that adventure of starting out somewhere else, Spanish offers you a whole lot of options, both in South America as well as Spain, of course. Plus, the South American market is growing at a considerable rate, with a significant number of international companies keen to trade there. Speaking Spanish will be of utmost importance if you want to get a foothold in that market. So with Mandarin, one of the knockout factors for me was that it would take over 4 years to learn the language to a suitable level. Well, with Spanish, you would not have that issue. In fact, for English speakers, it is one of the easiest languages to learn. With 650 hours, you can reach that B1 level we talked about earlier. Meaning that with the same calculation used in my example of learning Mandarin, if you study 10 hours a week, you'll be good to go after just about a year and 3 months. My second, equally as beneficial language to learn in economic terms is German. If you're planning to work or do business in Central Europe, then a lot of your success is going to depend on your knowledge and proficiency in German. It is the language of some of the richest countries in the world, and German is the modern go-to European language of choice. Germany itself has a massive economy that drives international trade throughout Europe. Learning German can qualify you to work for one of the many top-tier companies that have headquarters in Germany, providing you with career opportunities in various industries, but especially engineering and finance. Also, when looking at the salary, German is a good way to go. While Germany itself offers pretty good salaries in comparison to the EU overall, no one can beat Switzerland, being known for paying one of the highest salaries in the world. And even if you want to work in the US, this language will be a good asset for you to have. German has the highest median US salary for a job that requires foreign language abilities. It does have one downside, however. it is not as easy to learn as Spanish. Instead of the approximate 650 hours it would take you to learn Spanish, German will require you to put in 900 hours instead, meaning that you would reach the B1 level after 1 year and 9 months. But even that is still a lot less than the 2,200 hours it would take you to learn Mandarin. Well, I also want to give you a third option. If you're not really into learning Spanish or German, you could also learn French. The arguments are quite similar to the ones for learning Spanish. It is also in the easy peasy category to learn for English speakers. Also, France has a good and stable market and is spoken in many other places, like French Canada, many countries in Africa, and Switzerland. There's a large Francophone community, and it is an official language of many international organizations. So, maybe I inspired you to start studying Spanish, German, or French. I really do hope so. They're great languages to learn, each one beautiful in their own way, even if German is a little more rough around the edges than the more melodic options of Spanish and French. Each language can give you access to a different market, so of course there are a lot of personal decisions involved. For example, the field you want to work in, or which country you could actually imagine living in. I hope I could also dispel some of the hype over the business benefits of learning Mandarin. Yes, it gives access to a huge market, and there are relatively few Westerners who speak it, but the difficulty of learning it and of doing business in China are real downsides, which is why I think you might be better off with some of the other languages. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. While you're at it, why not check out some of our other videos on the channel, like why corporate culture is a trap, or why Pokemon is the most profitable franchise in the world. See you next time, here on Rebel Economics.